Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids. My name is Amit and this is the impressive new Suzuki Avenis 125cc. Now, if I really had to ask you which is the definitive 125cc scooter in the Indian bike market, it has to be the Suzuki XS. That scooter almost started this segment and has been going strong even after all those years, and despite not tinkering around much with its conservative looks. The only problem that scooter, if ever it had any, was its looks, which were not very sporty. So the answer to that problem is the Avenis, so much so that the entire platform has not been tinkered with. The chassis here, the suspension here, everything is the same with the XS, and I would love Suzuki for doing that because the XS 125 is a sorted scooter and all that it needed was a dash of style. Do you really want your scooter to go like a motorcycle? Do you really carve corners? Be honest about it. No, you don't. It's primarily for cosmetic, for graphic, for visual appeal. And here it is. The Avenis 125 looks the part and is every bit as practical as the XS 125. Now, some of my fellow journalists have complained that this is not more sporty in terms of the way it rides, and I somewhat differ with them. I would have wanted Suzuki to keep it just the way it is. It is still as comfortable as the XS 125. And I really love Suzuki for that because it still is usable on a day-to-day basis. You might be riding as a single rider, and as we know, the Suzuki XS is a fairly sporty scooter. It holds its own in a straight line and around bends. So it is a reasonably sporty scooter while still being very practical. So this essentially is the XS 125, the reliable, smooth, amazingly fuel efficient XS 125 with brand new clothing, and boy do I love this scooter. Now, the one thing that you probably would have already noticed is that the styling is more than just a resemblance to the Ntorq 125, and that simply cannot be a coincidence. Everybody knows that the Ntorq is very well received, and Suzuki have taken more than just a leaf from that scooter's book. And as you can see, these handlebar mounted blinkers, the apron mounted headline, and all of these lines here as well as on the side are probably more than just a nod to the TVS Ntorq 125, and that probably is not such a bad thing if you look at it in isolation. I particularly like these bug eyes on the handlebar. They really say something to you. The scooter does have a character. But the good thing here is that the quality of the panels, as always has been the case with Suzuki scooters, is fantastic. I have always loved Suzuki scooters for the kind of quality that they offer. They really offer some fantastic finish, real good quality in terms of switchgear, the mechanicals, and it's exactly the same here. No problem with the paint, absolutely no problem with the panels and the plastics. It's really beautifully done. The blinkers here are bulb. You have this little fly screen with Suzuki emblem here. The headlamp is an LED unit with two DRLs on the side, and you'll get this scooter in 4 colors, all of which are two-tone, as well as the blue colored MotoGP edition, which costs you about 1,000 more. Up front you have disc, rear you have drum, and you have 12 inches up front with 10 inches at the rear. If anything, probably the wheel size at the rear could have been increased, but then again, I would not have wanted Suzuki to tinker around with the XS's proven formula, and I can understand why they have not done anything with that setup as well. Now, the seat height here is 780 mm, which makes it pretty accessible for even the shorter riders amongst you. Myself being about 5 feet 10 inches, as you can see, I can place my heels properly on the ground, and there is ample space here on the floorboard as well. It's as practical as it's sporty. Another great practical thing are the mirrors. They are very wide and let you understand what's coming from behind very clearly. The handlebar is quite upright, so it doesn't foul with the knees of even the taller riders amongst you when you are maneuvering it in tight conditions. And then you have this familiar Bluetooth enabled instrument console, which is fully digital. It's full of information. On top you have the fuel gauge. Here you have the engine temperature, a clock, speedo. Here you have the trip, and you can toggle through it. You have the fuel efficiency average, you have trip B, the average, and then you also have a voltmeter, and you have the odo. Here our phone is connected. It shows you the battery level and the fact that it's Bluetooth enabled. And once you have connected it with the phone, you can actually have a look at turn by turn navigation. You can get notifications for incoming calls, missed call alerts, and you can also look at your last park location through the app. So it is a connected scooter, and we have demoed this unit in a video which you can have a look at. You'll find the link above, or you can probably search on Motorites channel. We have explained how this instrument console works. Apart from that, you have a few other things which you'd probably be interested in. You have the turn indicators, you have this I button which is for notification, you have an engine malfunction light, you have this error light, and then you have this eco light that comes on when you are driving it gingerly and not burning too much fuel. So keep it in green and you'll save a lot of fuel. You also have a high beam indicator, and then you can toggle through everything here, and this mode button here is for enabling Bluetooth. Now here you have the engine start button along with the engine kill switch, and the side stand will inhibit the engine from turning on. The startup is very smooth, silent, and here you have all the positions for the ignition as well as for the seat. It's very familiar, and you can shut the access to the key by pressing this button and then open it again by using the back of the key like so. Now you have this very useful crevice here, which as of now, as you can see, it's a very long sunglasses case and it's sitting here very neatly. And then you have this another crevice which is covered, and the good thing here is that it will swallow a very big smartphone very easily, and it also comes with a USB socket. So it's all very well thought out, and I really like what Suzuki have done with the storage compartments here. So both these compartments are very usable, and typically we do find these storage compartments and slots, but sometimes they are not very usable. They're also very deep and vertical, so they are very usable. So in that sense, these two slots are very usable. On the left hand side you have high beam and low beam, although a day flasher is missing here, turn indicators, and this is how the horn sounds. There is ample space for your feet here, and practically there is absolutely no problem because the seat is also very well designed. Just because it's a sportier scooter, Suzuki have not tinkered around with the comfort, and as you can see, the seat is very wide and it's not too sloped, so you can rest your behind here very comfortably. And the pillion seat also, although on the XS it's slightly longer, this is a very practical seat too, and if you're going to be using it for your family where you want to have a pillion rider with you, it's not going to be a problem at all. Although it's slightly a step seat, but it's still very comfortable and very well cushioned. The foam here is of the right density, and I really like this seat. This is a two-tone unit with this red contrasting sporty stitching, and I really believe that Suzuki have done a great job with the Avenis as regards styling and comfort and practicality. The ground clearance here is 160 mm, and if you compare it with the Ntorq, the ground clearance there is 155 mm, which is 5 mm less. Now underneath the seat you have 21.8 liters of generous boot space. This is par for the course, and most of the scooters here will have 20 to 22 liters, so there is absolutely nothing to complain about. Although if you compare it with the recently introduced TVS Jupiter 125, that one has 33 liters and has space for two small helmets which can be put side by side. So apart from that, this scooter is good enough. However, it won't allow for a proper full-faced helmet to be put in. Also, I miss illumination here. I cannot see any lights here, and I think that's a bit of an omission, and had we had a light somewhere here, that would really have helped. The Avenis branding is here, and the muffler here is also pretty sporty looking with a glossy black tip. The blinkers are all bulbs, although the tail lamp here and these units as well are LEDs. You have an external fuel filler cap, although it cannot be operated from the front, and you will have to get down from the scooter and open it like so. The fuel capacity here is 5.2 liters, and the fuel efficiency is the best in segment, comparable with the duo of the Rezi R and the Fascino. The Suzuki XS and the Avenis are the mileage champions along with performance. It really is an impressive scooter. Within the city also, if you are not driving too hard, you will get 50 to 55 kmpl, and on the highway you would exceed 60 kmpl. The fuel efficiency here is really something to talk about. Exceptionally good, well-rounded scooter in terms of quality, comfort and everything else that you can imagine. Now its key competitor is the TVS Ntorq, from which it draws its design and a lot of other things. And if you compare the specs, The power here from the 125cc 2-valve air-cooled engine is 8.7 PS at 6,750 RPM, and the torque here is 10 Newton meters at 5,500 RPM. Compare that with the standard NTORQ, and power there is 0.7 PS more, and the torque there is 0.5 Newton meters more. But if you compare it with the Race XP version, the power there is significantly more. It's more by 1.5 PS, and the torque is more by 10.8 Newton meters. So the NTORQ has a significant advantage in terms of power, although the weight there is also 12 kgs more. Another scooter that needs mention here is the Maestro, which produces more power at 9.1 PS and more torque by 0.4 Newton meters at 10.4 Newton meters. The Maestro's fuel efficiency also is pretty good. Now, before we start talking about this scooter's performance, what really stands out is the complete lack of vibrations. You sit on the scooter and you ring that throttle, take it all the way to its top speed. There is not going to be any vibrations felt at any part of the scooter. This has to be one of the smoothest scooters out there on the market, and Suzuki really has to be complimented for the kind of work that they've done with the refinement and the creaminess of this engine. It has been phenomenal always, and nothing has changed with the Avenis. So in terms of refinement, it definitely stands out. The 0 to 60 time of the scooter is about 7.5 seconds, and if you go to 0 to 80, it gets there in a little over 16 seconds. Now that might not sound very quick, but for scooters that is indeed a very quick number, and this scooter can indeed go toe to toe with the TVS NTORQ, which is the king of performance within this segment. And while the numbers on paper might be slightly more on the NTORQ, in application this scooter is also very, very quick. In terms of top speed, I tested this scooter today, and what I saw on the speedo was 104 kilometers per hour. With someone like me who's 90 kgs or thereabouts, a lighter person can probably attain a higher top speed on the speedo at least, which means that scooter is fairly quick and has a very respectable top speed as well. So it's as practical as it's quick. Now about the suspension here, the front section is a telescopic fork, and at the rear we have a monoshock, and it's very, very well set up. It's fairly comfortable. Even with 2-up riding, it does not bottom out. It's not very wallowy or overly soft. It's fairly firm, feels very comfortable, and even if you're going at a very high speed, it feels stable enough. Of course, it's not the sportiest scooter that's there on the market, and if you're looking for something which has the best go, which has the fastest acceleration and top speed, I would suggest that you look elsewhere. You look at the Yamaha Aero X, because that scooter has a significant advantage in terms of the handling and the acceleration. But for the most part, this scooter does a lot of things right. Fuel efficiency, as I mentioned, is fantastic. 50-55 in the city and 60 and onwards on the highway, and that really makes it a fantastic package. But as always, nothing is without its share of flaws, and if I really have to point one thing out, I really believe that Suzuki could probably have improved the tires on this one. It's got a 90 section front and a 90 section rear, and those tires are relatively slim. To give you a perspective, the NTORQ comes with a 100 section front and a 110 section rear with 12 inches at both ends, and that lends the NTORQ a slight advantage in terms of braking and handling. This scooter has a tendency to tramline when you are going over ridges. If there are any road joints or any small gaps on the road, the scooter has a tendency to tramline. Also, under harsh braking, if you are braking from a high speed very, very hard, the tires of the scooter have a tendency to start squealing. So I think that part, this being a sportier scooter, could probably have been addressed, and that's more or less the only complaint that I have. Maybe the fuel efficiency may have suffered just a little bit, but we could probably have done with wider tires on this one. So that's my only complaint, but apart from that, really a fantastic job done here. Now, I'm pretty sure that you want to know how well the exhaust sounds. Let me be very clear, the NTORQ has the best sounding exhaust here. It also has voice commands, which this scooter does not come with. The race edition of the NTORQ also comes with hazard lights, which this misses out on. I would have also liked to have auto start stop system on this scooter, which is not there, but nonetheless, let's have a listen to the exhaust. It is fairly bassy in isolation, but this is not the bassiest. Overall, what a practical package, and I really want to congratulate Suzuki for finally answering the prayers of a vast majority of people who wanted a sportier looking Suzuki. The Burgman has been there, but the Burgman is a maxi scooter and not to everyone's taste. It's also quite big and it's also quite expensive. So in that sense, this just fills that gap rather nicely. It is also slightly expensive, and if you really want to compare the prices of this scooter with its immediate competitors, let's have a look at that as well. And this scooter is priced from 86 to 87,000 rupees. The 87,000 version is the race edition. Now the race edition is almost as expensive as the TVS Ntorq Race XP, which retails for 87.5, only 500 rupees more, and it does offer more features, better performance and a bassier exhaust as well. But this one here has much better fuel efficiency. The Burgman will go all the way up to 91,000 rupees. The Race ER retails for 80,000 rupees. The Grazia retails for up to 87.7 thousand rupees, which is 700 rupees more than this. The Jupiter, which is a more practical scooter, not sporty, has its top variant priced at 82.6 thousand rupees, a lot cheaper than this. And the Maestro Edge retails between 73.5 to 82.3 thousand rupees. You also have a more premium Aprilia Storm retailing between 91 to 96,000 rupees. So there you have it, guys. This scooter has won me over. If you want a sporty looking practical scooter, I can really recommend the Avenis. I know how good a platform this is, and wherever you look at it, it reeks of quality and refinement, and you cannot really go wrong with the Suzuki Avenis. Congratulating Suzuki once again, and I really hope that this video was of some use to you. It was able to answer all the questions that you had about this beautiful new scooter. Still, if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. I'll be very happy to answer them. If you like our content, do not forget to subscribe. Share this videos with your friends who might be looking for a scooter in this segment. And until next time, this is Amit Chagani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and ride safe.